My beloved child. Stop scrolling. Do not let this moment slip away, because something extraordinary is unfolding before your eyes. You did not arrive here by accident. Out of countless voices you could have heard today, somehow you found this one. There is a reason for that. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you. Every passing moment is leading toward a revelation that may completely change the way you see this story. There is a question that has been quietly following your heart, even if you have never spoken it aloud. Have you ever wondered how two souls can feel connected, yet life seems to place impossible walls between them? Sometimes destiny writes stories that appear confusing at first. Sometimes a heart recognizes another heart long before circumstances allow them to stand together. Today's story is one of those mysteries. Don't skip. The title may have surprised you, but this is not a story about betrayal or bitterness. It is a story about timing, choices, patience, and the quiet ways life reshapes paths that once looked impossible. What happened next was something nobody around them expected, and every chapter of this journey carries a lesson worth hearing. Imagine someone who believed their future had already been decided. Their life looked complete from the outside. Friends smiled when they saw them. Family believed everything was exactly as it should be. Every morning followed the same routine. Every evening looked almost identical to the one before. Yet deep inside, there remained a silent question that refused to disappear. Have you ever noticed how the loudest storms are not always visible? Sometimes the greatest battles happen inside a heart that continues smiling. Nobody hears those conversations. Nobody notices those unanswered questions. Yet they continue every single day. Stay till the end. Because what happened next was not sudden. It began with something so ordinary that almost anyone would have ignored it. A single unexpected moment. A familiar place. A brief glance. Nothing dramatic. Nothing impossible. Just one tiny event that quietly started changing everything. Life has an unusual way of connecting moments that seem unrelated. One conversation leads to another. One memory awakens another. One decision made years ago suddenly begins making sense. At first, nobody realizes the pattern. Even the people living inside the story cannot see it. Don't skip. As the days continued, strange little reminders kept appearing. A familiar melody played at the perfect moment. An old photograph appeared while cleaning a forgotten drawer. A place that had not been visited in years suddenly came back into conversation. Each event seemed too small to matter, but together they formed something impossible to ignore. The person at the center of this story began wondering why these memories refused to stay in the past. They tried focusing on everyday responsibilities. They convinced themselves everything was normal. They reminded themselves that life had already chosen its direction. Yet every attempt to silence those quiet questions only made them return more clearly. Have you ever experienced that feeling when your heart remembers something your mind is trying to forget? Something huge is waiting for you. One evening, while the world carried on as usual, something happened that completely interrupted the ordinary rhythm of life. It was not an explosion of emotion. It was not a dramatic confrontation. It was much quieter than that. A letter. Not a letter filled with promises. Not a letter asking for impossible choices. Not a letter demanding anything at all. Instead, it contained words that had been hidden for years. Words of gratitude. Words of respect. Words about a single meeting from long ago that had quietly changed someone's life forever. The writer explained that one simple conversation, remembered by almost nobody else, had become the reason they found strength during difficult seasons. They never expected anything in return. They never intended to reopen the past. They simply wanted the truth to be known before another year passed. Don't skip. Because this is where the story becomes unforgettable. The reader expected those words to bring closure. Instead, they awakened memories that had never completely disappeared. Moments that once seemed ordinary suddenly became priceless. Conversations that had lasted only minutes now felt larger than entire years. Every sentence inside that letter revealed that kindness has consequences we rarely recognize in the moment. What surprised everyone most was not that the letter existed. It was how long those feelings of gratitude had remained hidden. Stay till the end. Days passed. Neither person rushed toward dramatic decisions. Neither person attempted to rewrite their lives overnight. Instead, they chose something much harder. Honesty. Reflection. Patience. Because genuine change is rarely loud. It begins inside long before the outside world notices anything different. As they reflected on the past, they realized that destiny is not always about immediate endings or instant beginnings. Sometimes it is about understanding why certain people leave fingerprints on your heart that never completely disappear, not to create confusion, but to teach compassion, courage, and growth. The greatest surprise was still ahead. Because the story was never about breaking promises. It was about discovering that one person's quiet encouragement had inspired another to become kinder, stronger, and more hopeful for years without either of them fully realizing it. Don't skip. The final revelation of this chapter is simple, yet powerful. Not every unforgettable connection exists to change your relationship status. Some exist to change your character. Some exist to remind you that even the smallest act of kindness can echo across years. Some exist so that, when the right season finally arrives, you understand that every unanswered question had been preparing you for greater wisdom. And as this chapter closes, one mystery still remains unsolved. The letter mentioned one final truth. A truth that had never been spoken aloud. A truth connected to a promise made many years earlier. A promise that could completely reshape everything you thought you understood about this story. Stay till the end of this journey. Because something huge is waiting for you. A quiet truth was about to rise from the past, and neither of them could have imagined where it would lead. If you have stayed this far, stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you. Don't skip. Every detail from this moment forward connects directly to the mystery that began with the unexpected letter, and the next discovery would reveal why that message had remained hidden for so many years. The letter ended with a single sentence that refused to leave the reader's mind: "There is something you deserve to know, but the time was never right until now." Those words echoed throughout the evening. They were simple, yet they carried the weight of an untold story. Sleep came slowly. Every memory returned with surprising clarity. Places once forgotten suddenly became vivid. Faces that had faded with time seemed close again. It was as though the past had quietly opened a door that had been locked for years. Don't skip. The following morning began like every other morning. The streets were familiar. The conversations sounded ordinary. Nothing around them suggested that life was about to reveal another hidden chapter. Yet sometimes the biggest moments never announce themselves. They arrive quietly, disguised as ordinary days. While organizing old keepsakes, another forgotten envelope appeared between the pages of a notebook that had not been opened in years. Dust covered its edges. The handwriting looked familiar. The date written on the corner stopped everything. It had been written long before either of them believed their paths had ended forever. Hands trembled slightly as the envelope was opened. Inside was not another confession. It was a promise. A promise that if life ever brought their memories back together, they would never allow gratitude to remain unspoken again. There was no request. No expectation. Only appreciation for a person whose kindness had changed the direction of another life without ever realizing it. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. Suddenly, pieces that never seemed connected began fitting together. The encouraging words spoken years ago. The unexpected meeting. The chance encounter everyone else had forgotten. Every small act of kindness had quietly become part of someone else's greatest source of hope. The realization was overwhelming. How many lives had been changed by moments that seemed too ordinary to remember? How many conversations had planted seeds that would only bloom years later? The answer could not be counted. That afternoon, another surprise arrived. A mutual friend reached out unexpectedly, unaware of the letter or the memories that had returned. During the conversation, they mentioned something remarkable. You know, the friend said, there was always one story they never stopped telling. Whenever someone asked what inspired them to become the person they are today, your name always found its way into the conversation. Silence filled the room. The reader could hardly believe what they had just heard. Years had passed. Entire seasons of life had changed. Yet one simple act of encouragement had never been forgotten. Don't skip. Because the greatest surprise had not even arrived yet. The friend continued speaking. They never tried to change the past. They never wished for impossible things. They simply hoped that one day you would know how much your kindness mattered. Those words carried more emotion than anyone expected. Not because they promised a dramatic ending, but because they revealed something far more meaningful. Sometimes the greatest gift you leave in another person's life is not your presence. It is your influence. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. Over the next several days, more forgotten memories surfaced. Old journals revealed entries describing dreams, fears, and moments of unexpected courage. Again and again, one familiar theme appeared. Hope. Whenever life became difficult, they remembered that one conversation from years before. Whenever they doubted themselves, they remembered those encouraging words. Whenever they questioned whether good people truly existed, they remembered the kindness that had once crossed their path. The reader realized they had unknowingly become part of someone else's happiest memories. That truth was impossible to ignore. Don't skip. Late one evening, another unexpected message arrived. It contained only a single photograph. No explanation. No caption. Just an image of the old place where their paths had first crossed. At first, it seemed ordinary. Then one tiny detail changed everything. In the corner of the photograph stood a small wooden bench. Carved into its side were words that had survived the passing years. Kindness always finds its way home. Nobody remembered carving those words. Nobody knew exactly when they had appeared. Yet somehow they remained there, untouched by time. The photograph felt like a reminder that beautiful moments never disappear completely. Sometimes they simply wait for the right season to be understood. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. The mystery deepened when the mutual friend revealed one final piece of information. There was one more letter. Another letter? The reader looked up in complete surprise. Yes, the friend replied softly. It was never sent. It was written many years ago, but the writer decided that life should continue peacefully. They kept it hidden, believing that gratitude did not always require a reply. A letter that had never been opened. A message that had never been read. A story that had never reached its final page. Everything suddenly became even more mysterious. What could those unwritten years possibly contain? What truth had remained hidden all this time? The answers were closer than ever before. Don't skip. Because the next chapter will reveal what was inside the letter that remained unopened for years, and why everyone who eventually discovered its contents understood that the greatest surprises in life are not built on impossible promises, but on the lasting power of compassion, patience, and unforgettable kindness. Stay till the end of this journey. Something huge is waiting for you. The unopened letter rested quietly on the table, yet it carried the weight of years that no one had ever spoken about. If you have stayed this far, don't skip. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you. Every answer you have been searching for is beginning to reveal itself, but the greatest surprise has not appeared yet. For several minutes, no one dared to unfold the paper. It was not fear. It was respect. Some words become more valuable simply because they have waited so long to be heard. The room was silent. Even the smallest sound seemed louder than usual. Outside, the world continued exactly as it always had, completely unaware that an untold story was about to come alive. At last, the letter was opened. The first line was unexpected. If you are reading this, it means time has finally done what emotions never could. It has given us perspective. Those words immediately changed everything. This was not a letter asking anyone to change their life. It was not a letter filled with regret. It was not a letter trying to rewrite history. Instead, it was filled with gratitude, wisdom, and a quiet hope that kindness would never be forgotten. Don't skip. The writer described the very first day their paths crossed. It had seemed ordinary to everyone else, but to them it became one of the most unforgettable moments of their life. They explained how a few encouraging words had arrived during a season when they felt completely invisible. They admitted that those simple words had become the reason they kept believing tomorrow could be brighter than today. Every page revealed another hidden memory. A smile remembered after many years. A conversation repeated countless times inside their heart. A lesson that continued shaping every important decision they made. The reader could hardly believe it. Moments they had completely forgotten had become someone else's greatest source of inspiration. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. Then came the sentence that changed the meaning of the entire story. I never wanted to change your future. I only wanted you to know that because of you, I became a better person. Everything became quiet again. There were no dramatic promises. No impossible expectations. Only one beautiful truth. Sometimes the greatest gift we give another person is never fully understood until years later. The reader slowly realized that the title of this story had never been about shocking choices or impossible endings. The real surprise was far deeper. Someone had quietly carried gratitude in their heart for years without asking for anything in return. Don't skip. As the final pages were read, another mystery appeared. Folded inside the letter was a small map. Not a map leading to treasure. Not a map leading to fortune. It marked a single location. The place where they had first met. On the back was a handwritten message. If life ever brings you here again, simply smile. That will be enough. Days later, curiosity became impossible to ignore. The reader visited the place once more. Almost nothing had changed. The same trees. The same pathway. The same quiet atmosphere. But one small detail immediately stood out. Attached to a nearby notice board was a community project celebrating acts of kindness that had changed people's lives. Among dozens of anonymous stories was one familiar memory. Without mentioning any names, it described the exact conversation from years ago. Someone had anonymously shared how one stranger's encouragement had transformed their confidence forever. The reader stood completely still. That conversation had never truly ended. Its impact had continued reaching people long after the moment itself had passed. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. As they turned to leave, an elderly volunteer smiled and said something unexpected. You know, the person who shared that story visits here every year. They always say this place reminds them that one kind conversation can change an entire lifetime. The reader looked back once more. Everything suddenly made sense. The mystery had never been about finding someone again. It had always been about discovering the lasting power of kindness. The greatest surprises are not always found in dramatic endings. Sometimes they are found in realizing that your smallest acts became someone else's greatest memories. Don't skip. Yet one final question remained unanswered. Why had the letter appeared now, after all these years? That answer was hidden inside one final envelope that no one had noticed until this very moment. It contained only a single sentence. The next chapter begins when you discover why this message could only be delivered today. The reader looked at the date written beneath those words. Their heart stopped for a moment. It was today's date. Not yesterday. Not years ago. Today. How could that be possible? Who had arranged for the letters to appear at exactly the right time? Who had quietly protected this story until the perfect moment arrived? Those answers were still waiting. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you, and the final pieces of this unforgettable story are closer than ever before. Everything changed the moment the final envelope was turned over. If you have come this far, don't skip. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you. The mystery that began with a forgotten letter is finally approaching its most unforgettable chapter, and every detail from this point forward explains why this story could only unfold now. The envelope contained no long message. Instead, there was a single key and a handwritten note. If you have found this, then you already know the greatest truth. The rest is waiting where every story first begins. The key looked old, almost forgotten by time. There was no name attached to it. No address. Only a tiny number engraved on one side. For hours, the meaning remained a mystery. Then, almost by accident, the reader remembered a place visited many years before, a small community library that had once offered tiny memory boxes where people could leave letters, journals, and keepsakes to be opened in the future. Could the key belong there? Don't skip. The following morning, curiosity led them back to that familiar building. Time had changed many things, yet the entrance looked exactly as it had years ago. The same wooden shelves. The same peaceful silence. The same warm welcome. An elderly caretaker smiled kindly. "I've been wondering when someone would finally arrive with that key." Those words sent a wave of surprise through the room. The caretaker slowly unlocked a small wooden box that had remained untouched for many years. Inside were photographs, ticket stubs, a pressed flower, a notebook, and one final sealed message. Every item represented an ordinary moment that had quietly become extraordinary through memory. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. The notebook was opened first. It contained reflections written across many different years. Each page described one